Every may I is a voluntary admission of dependency. The strong don't ask for permission, because every may I is a voluntary admission of dependency. In a world where millions wait for approval just to breathe freely, the one who acts without it appears dangerous. Machiavelli grasped this 5 centuries ago. Power belongs not to those who are better, but to those who are more decisive. Not to those who are right, but to those who act. A person used to asking lives in a state of inner slavery. His will is weakened by someone else's gaze. He takes a step and immediately stops, checking the reaction. He lives not from the inside, but from the outside, through others' eyes, through the fear of being judged. That is how powerlessness is born. That is how spirit dies. And that's exactly why the strong seem ruthless. They stopped seeking agreement. Machiavelli wrote that the one who wants to be respected must decide, not explain. Power does not tolerate apologies. Every time you justify yourself, you confirm dependency. And dependency is the opposite of strength. True freedom begins where you stop explaining why you live the way you feel. In the modern world, we've been trained to be convenient. To be loved, we must be soft, diplomatic, safe. But strength is never safe. It doesn't fit into frames, doesn't seek consent, doesn't fear conflict. It goes its own way because it knows the price of independence is always solitude. But solitude is not punishment. It's proof of maturity. To be honest, most people aren't afraid to lose. They're afraid to cross the permitted line. They're afraid to hear, "Who gave you the right?" But here's the truth. No one. The right to act isn't given. It's taken. And if you don't take it, someone will take it for you. Machiavelli understood that the person who asks for permission acknowledges the power of the one he asks, which means he has already lost. Strength is not aggression. It is the absence of the need for approval. The one who acts without permission isn't violating. He is creating, because only action creates a new reality. When you stop waiting, the world begins to resist. It tries to drag you back into the familiar state of obedience. People around you will feel threatened. Doesn't arrive. It must be created. The silence before action isn't a sign of waiting. It's a moment of focus. When you first stop asking, it's frightening. Every cell demands the familiar, "Allow me." But fear is just a signal that you're leaving dependency. The habit of obedience dies slowly. And the deeper you were in it, the more painful the return to yourself will be. Machiavelli said, "Power is the art of acting in spite of fear, in spite of opinion, in spite of circumstances, because it is resistance that creates strength. Without it, will withers. You can be the smartest, but if you don't act, your mind becomes an excuse. You can be the kindest, but if you don't set boundaries, kindness becomes a tool for someone else's gain. Strength isn't a character trait. It's a decision, the decision not to ask. When you act without asking, you face aggression. People hate the one who does what they fear. They will mock, criticize, devalue. But it's not because you're wrong. It's because your freedom reminds them of their slavery. A strong person doesn't rebel for show. He simply stops playing the game where you need permission to breathe. He understands that power isn't control over others, but the ability to control himself. Machiavelli would say, "Be the one who acts, and even your enemies will begin to respect you." If you feel this is about you, write in the comments, "Taking off my masks." Let's see who's ready to act without approval. Strength doesn't require display. It is quiet. A look, a pause, a decision. In a world where everyone is shouting, the silence of the strong is louder than any noise. Machiavelli understood that power lies not in loudness, but in inner calm. Because the one who masters himself masters the situation. Most seek guarantees. They want to know it will work out. But a guarantee is a form of slavery. It makes your will dependent on the future. And a strong person acts without guarantees. He chooses risk because he knows without risk, there is no power. When you stop asking for permission, you begin to see how deeply fear is rooted. It will be respected by no one. Because respect is born not from softness, but from strength. A strong person does not justify his desires. He acknowledges them. He knows that being alive means feeling contradictions. He isn't afraid of being misunderstood. He knows his truth doesn't have to be universal. And in this lies greatness. When you start living as you feel, you stop needing the world's blessing. You become the source of law yourself. And that law is simple. If you feel you must, do it. Machiavelli said, "People forgive defeat, but they do not forgive independence." Because an independent person breaks the order of dependency. He shows that it is possible to live without fear, and that makes him a threat. But here is the paradox. This very threat awakens respect. People are instinctively drawn to those who do not need, because they feel life in them. They have what most have lost, the right to act. A strong person doesn't prove, he doesn't argue, he simply goes. And when he passes by, even those who condemned him feel something has changed. That is strength. Continuing. No introductions, no explanations. Straight to the second half of the monologue. Continuation of the script. The strong don't ask for permission. Machiavelli on the right to act. When a person stops asking for permission, he faces emptiness. The world that was once filled with others' reactions becomes quiet. No one applauds, no one evaluates, no one confirms that you are right. And it is in this silence that the hardest part begins, meeting yourself. You start to realize that dependence on approval was a drug. Without it, withdrawal sets in. Every cell craves an external dose of recognition. But if you endure this period, something remarkable happens. Inner balance. You no longer need someone else's yes. You simply know you can. Machiavelli wrote that power favors those who are not afraid of solitude, because it is in an action. Every time you choose doing over waiting, you destroy an invisible prison. To be honest, most people live exactly like this, asking, "What if I can't?" They look for signs, approvals, excuses. They call it reason, caution, maturity. But behind this mask hides fear. Fear of acting. Fear of making a mistake. Fear of being alive. Machiavelli did not idealize strength. He understood that power without morals is dangerous. But he also knew that morality without will is powerless. How many people justify their inaction with kindness, humility, patience? But patience without action is a form of surrender. Goodness without will is just weakness in pretty wrapping. The strong are not cruel. They simply don't let their fears run them. They know action always carries risk. But not acting is an even greater risk, because inaction is a slow death disguised as prudence. If you feel tired of others' rules, subscribe. That way, more people will learn that strength doesn't require permission. Machiavelli wrote that a ruler who hesitates too long loses respect. People gravitate not to kindness, but to resolve. Resolve is rare. In a world where everyone doubts, the one who is sure seems supernatural. But confidence is not innate. It is the result of action. You act, and you see the result. You see you didn't die. You see the fear was an illusion, and at that moment new energy appears. Inner confidence. That is the fuel of strength. A strong person doesn't apologize for his existence. He doesn't explain why he chose to be himself. He simply lives. He doesn't fight with the world. He simply refuses to dissolve in it. He doesn't go against, he goes through. Machiavelli would say, act as if your right is a fact. And that's the essence. When you stop asking if you may, you become the source of the norm. The world begins to align with your energy. People start to perceive your resolve as natural. They feel that you aren't playing, and that disarms. Strength is not loudness, not aggression, not coldness. It is the quiet certainty that you have the right to step, to speak.
Decision comes with a price. But that is precisely what makes them alive. They don't shift blame, don't justify, don't wait. They simply take. When you stop asking, you stop being a child. You become an adult not when you grow older, but when you stop needing someone else's approval. Strength is maturity. It's the ability to say to yourself, I have the right, without pride, without aggression, simply as a fact.